The silence in the Southern District of New York was never about a lack of noise. It was about the weight of what wasn't being said. For 3 decades, Sean Diddy Combs didn't just navigate the entertainment industry, he owned the atmosphere. He was the architect of the shiny suit era, the man who taught the world how to party, and the mogul who turned bad boy into a global billion-dollar synonym for excellence. But as the winter of 2025 set in, the lights of the Hamptons and the flashbulbs of the red carpet were replaced by the fluorescent hum of a federal facility. On October 3rd, the gavel finally fell. 50 months in prison. It was a sentence that sent shockwaves through Hollywood, not because of its length, but because of what it represented, the definitive end of an era of perceived untouchability. And then, just as the dust began to settle, Netflix dropped The Reckoning. Produced in the shadows by his fiercest rival, 50 Cent, this 4-part docuseries did more than just recount a trial. It dismantled a myth. Tonight, we aren't just looking at a criminal case. We are looking at the autopsy of an empire. This is the rise, the rot, and the final reckoning of Sean Puffy Combs. To understand how far the mighty have fallen, we have to look at the height from which the descent began. In the early 90s, Sean Combs was a force of nature. From his humble beginnings as an intern at Uptown Records to founding Bad Boy, he possessed an almost supernatural ability to curate cool. He didn't just produce records. He produced lifestyles. When he stood behind Notorious B.I.G., Madollar E., and Faith Evans, he wasn't just a label head. He was a conductor. He mastered the art of the remix, taking the gritty soul of hip-hop and polishing it for the pop charts. By the late 90s, Diddy was the king of New York in a way that surpassed music. His white parties were the most exclusive tickets in the world. To be invited was to be validated. Titans of industry, Hollywood A-listers, and political figures all rubbed shoulders in his presence. He cultivated an image of black excellence that felt aspirational and indestructible. But as The Reckoning documentary suggests through its haunting archival footage, the seeds of the 2025 collapse were being sown in those very moments of triumph. The documentary highlights a recurring theme: power. Not just the power to create, but the power to control. Behind the velvet ropes of the 90s and early 2000s, a culture of fear was allegedly being constructed. One non-disclosure agreement at a time. For years, the rumors were whispers in the back of tour buses and blind items in gossip columns. There were legal brushes, the 1999 nightclub shooting, the various assault allegations, but Diddy always seemed to emerge unscathed. His Teflon coating reinforced by a team of high-priced lawyers and a public relations machine that never slept. Everything changed in November 2023, when Cassie Ventura filed her bombshell lawsuit. The world stopped. It wasn't just the allegations of abuse. It was the sheer detail. It was the first time the public saw a crack in the mogul's armor that couldn't be buffed out. Though the suit was settled within 24 hours, the damage was permanent. Federal investigators, who had been quietly circling the perimeter of his empire for years, finally had the momentum they needed. The raids on his Miami and Los Angeles mansions in early 2024 were the visual confirmation that the federal government was no longer interested in whispers. They were looking for evidence. Fast forward to the summer of 2025. The Southern District of New York became the center of the pop culture universe. Diddy stood accused of racketeering, sex trafficking, and various Mann Act violations. The prosecution's case was built on what they called the Freak-Off's elaborate, multi-day sexual performances that prosecutors alleged were coerced and recorded. The trial was a masterclass in legal drama. The defense argued that while Combs' lifestyle was unconventional and perhaps hedonistic, it was entirely consensual. They painted him as a target of a cancel culture gone rogue, a man being punished for his success and his lifestyle choices. For weeks, the jury listened to testimony from former associates, security guards, and individuals who claimed they were transported across state lines for the purpose of prostitution. The verdict, delivered in July 2025, was a split decision that left both sides reeling. In a stunning turn, the jury acquitted Combs of the heaviest charges, racketeering and sex trafficking. For a moment, it looked like Diddy might pull off one last miracle. However, the conviction on 2 counts of the Mann Act transporting individuals for prostitution carried a weight that could not be ignored. It was a legal middle ground that acknowledged the systemic nature of the misconduct without validating the criminal enterprise. Narrative of the racketeering charge. October 3, 2025, marked the definitive end of Sean Combs' freedom. Judge Dale Ho's sentencing of 50 months, 4 years, and 2 months was seen by some as a slap on the wrist and by others as a life sentence for a man of Diddy's age and status. In the federal system, there is no parole, only a small percentage of good time credit. The $500,000 fine was a drop in the bucket for a billionaire. But the 5 years of supervised release meant that even after he leaves prison, his life will be under a microscope. The judge's comments during the sentencing were particularly biting, noting that fame and fortune do not grant a license to treat human beings as props. This sentencing set the stage for the December release of the Netflix docuseries. It was no longer a documentary about an accused man. It was a documentary about a convicted man. The power dynamic had shifted. The fear that had kept witnesses silent for 30 years was beginning to evaporate. Enter Curtis 50 Cent Jackson. The rivalry between 50 and Diddy is legendary, spanning 2 decades of petty jabs and business competition. But with The Reckoning, 50 Cent moved from petty to profound. By executive producing the docuseries, 50 Cent ensured that the narrative of Diddy's fall would be told through a lens of brutal honesty. The documentary, which premiered on Netflix just 2 weeks ago, is a harrowing 4-part descent into the dark side of the music industry. It doesn't just focus on the 2025 trial. It goes back to the very beginning. It features interviews with former bad boy artists who describe a climate of intimidation. It utilizes never-before-seen footage that Netflix claims was acquired through investigative channels, while Diddy's legal team claims it was stolen and edited to create a false narrative. The most shocking moments of the docuseries aren't the allegations of physical violence, which are numerous, but the psychological toll. The documentary explores how wealth was used as a silencer, how young, aspiring artists were allegedly put in positions where they felt they had to comply with the boss or see their dreams extinguished. Critics have hailed it as a shameful hit piece, in the words of Diddy's camp, or a grimly necessary cultural exorcism, in the words of The Guardian. Regardless of where you stand, The Reckoning has become the most watched documentary in Netflix history, proving that the world is obsessed with the mechanics of a mogul's collapse. Sean Combs has not gone quietly into the night. Even from behind bars, his legal and PR team have been working overtime. Their response to the Netflix documentary was swift, a shameful hit piece built on lies, stolen footage, and the personal vendetta of a rival. Diddy's mother, Janice Combs, has become the public face of his defense, appearing in emotional interviews to insist that her son is being lynched by the media. She argues that his convictions were for technicalities and that the broader narrative of abuse is a fabrication by people looking for a payday. This defense has resonated with a segment of his fanbase who believe that Diddy is a victim of a system that frequently targets successful black men once they become too powerful. The legal battle is far from over. There are dozens of civil lawsuits still pending, ranging from sexual assault to wrongful termination. Each of these cases will likely draw on the evidence unearthed during the federal trial and the testimonies featured in the reckoning. The fall of Diddy is more than just a celebrity scandal. It is a turning point for the music industry. For decades, the mogul was a figure who operated above the rules. From Phil Spector to Suge Knight to Sean Combs, the industry historically tolerated and even celebrated volatile behavior as a byproduct of genius. But the 2025 conviction and the subsequent public reaction suggest that the protection of the genius era is over. The #MeToo movement, which began in Hollywood and moved through corporate America, has finally settled its accounts with the upper echelons of hip-hop. The silence of the moguls, the tendency for peers to look the other way, has been broken. In the documentary, we see industry insiders who previously praised Diddy now struggling to reconcile their public support with the private realities. Revealed in court. This is the question that will haunt the next decade of music history. How do we listen to "I'll Be Missing You"? How do we view the legacy of Biggie Smalls when his mentor and architect is serving time for Mann Act violations? Some argue that the art stands alone, that the music Bad Boy produced defined a generation and belongs to the fans, not to Combs. Others argue that the music was the vehicle for the power that allowed the alleged abuses to happen, making the art inseparable from the crime. As we look toward 2028, the earliest Diddy might see the outside of a prison cell. His empire is in ruins. His brands have been sold or distanced. His name has been removed from buildings, and his social circle has shrunk to his most loyal family members. The story of Sean Diddy Combs is a Shakespearean tragedy played out on Instagram, Court TV, and Netflix. It is a story of a man who wanted to own the world, and for a while actually did. But the very things that built his empire, the aggression, the control, the relentless pursuit of more, are the things that eventually burned it down. As we close this chapter in December 2025, the takeaway isn't just about one man's guilt or innocence. It's about the fact that no one, no matter how many Grammys they have, no matter how many billions they've made, no matter how many white parties they've hosted, is bigger than the truth. The reckoning is here. And as the credits roll on the Netflix doc and the cell door closes in Brooklyn, the only thing left is the silence. A silence that Sean Combs spent 30 years trying to drown out with the loudest music in the world.